Hey there, everybody. Swarsky here. Hope you're having a great day. We are on part 2 of finding trig. We did sides already, and now we're going to find angles. And at the end of this, what that's going to mean for us is you're going to be able to find anything that's a right triangle. As long as you have the information, you can find a missing side and a missing angle. Hoorah, right? So page 18 to work on that. So I'll give you a second. Pause the video if you need to kind of get yourself organized, and off we go. Okay, so up to this point, remember, we've had an angle, and at this end, we've found one of the missing pieces. Now the other thing is going to happen where we have enough sides and we want to find angle measures. So in this case, we're going to solve for sine A. Remember, A is this way, so really here's our reference angle, right? We can call that theta. And we know it's sine, right? Opposite hypotenuse. Okay, so why don't you take a second? How would you write this? How do you think you would write this with all the information we have right now? Take a second, write it, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I can either write it one of two ways. So I can say sine of A, that'd be the same thing, or sine theta, depending on how I symbolize it, same way. I'm going to keep it at A, and the sine of A is 5/13. Now, what I'm looking at is I'm saying I know the ratio for sine, for opposite hypotenuse, is 5/13. What I need to check is I say, what is the angle, in this case A, what is the angle that corresponds to that ratio of opposite hypotenuse? You say, all right, well, I got to solve. What I'm looking for is I'm trying to solve for the angular A. So how do I get rid of that, or how do I undo sine? Well, a lot of people might say, well, you got to divide it. So you're going to divide by sine. Divide by sine. I'd say, yeah. There's another way to think about that. And we call it the inverse. So we undo it. We do the inverse of sine. And you're going to see it as, this is how we write inverse. Okay? Here. What this tells me is it says that I know the ratio, I want the angle. Okay? Now, it's in your calculator. You're going to see, remember those buttons we've been using that were sine, cosine, tangent, right? Well, if you look right above it, usually they're in blue, you'll see this. The way you get to those is you need to hit your second button, which is usually in the upper left. Okay, and it'll say like this, second. Okay, if you're using one of mine, it'll usually be in the upper left, but you're looking for that second button that's traditionally in the upper left hand thing. Okay? And that's what we want to get to. So the ones for sine, cosine, and tangent, so here, here, and here, are for finding sides. And then the ones for up above, those are when we're looking for angles. Okay? So that's what we do. So we'd simply type in. If you type in and you say, all right, I'm going to turn on mine. Mine's here. So if I go second sine, this is what you're going to see on your calculator. It's going to go like this. Oops. It'll say, what's going on? Oh, hold on. It'll say, and it'll give you this parentheses. What's going in there is you're saying, here's the ratio, calculator, for the opposite hypotenuse. What is the angle that fits that ratio? And that's what it's telling you. So you go 5/13, that ratio, and I know that my degree measure ends up being 22, and we'll go to the nearest tenth, 0.6, and that's degrees. And there it is. That's the unique angle for that ratio, knowing its opposite hypotenuse. Okay, that's it. That's it. The nice thing is that there's no flip-flopping, no multiplying. We don't have to figure out where we're at, but we still need, like on here, we need to know what two things we used based off theta. This is what we're trying to solve for here. Okay, so let's see if you can set it up and solve. Okay, try it out. For both of them, why don't we do both of them? Set it up as you're going to use, remember, sine, cosine, and then tangent. Those three. Which ones are you going to use? Set them up, solve, see if you can find those angles. All right. First one. So if I'm solving for theta, remember I have opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. I'm using the adjacent hypotenuse, so that means it's cosine. So the cosine of theta is 20 over 25. Calculator time, I'm going to say, all right, well, what's that angle given this ratio? If it has to be cosine of that, 25, what's the angle that follows? So I go second cosine. You'll see cosine. You should see this, this in your calculator, and it's waiting for you. And you put in 20, 25, and I get, in my case, 36. We'll go to the nearest tenth again. 0.9 degrees. Second one, we have from theta, here's opposite adjacent. So that means that's going to be tangent. So tangent of theta is opposites 50, 20. Okay, so that means I'm going tan inverse 1, right? And then it'll be 50 over 20, which is, so I go second tan, 50 divided by 20, which would be, we'll call it nearest tenth, so 68.2 degrees. Wee. Okay. Now, what happens if I put in the wrong thing? So let's say, like with this one, I identify it wrong and I think it's cosine. Okay. So I say cosine inverse 50 over 20. This is a little more dramatic example. So try it on your calculator, see what happens. If I go shift cosine 50 over 20, what's it going to give me? It's going to say math error. And hopefully you can see that cosine, I cannot have my numerator being bigger than my denominator. Okay? So in this case, you're not always going to get an answer that you can use. Okay? That means usually something went wrong. So if you start getting errors or something weird, or the angle really doesn't seem to make sense, pay attention to that. Just because you get an answer doesn't mean it is the answer. Okay? All right. Success time. Now I'm giving you a bit of a challenge. So hopefully you can see that we've got this little triangle here, this little triangle, and then this big one right here. What I want you to do, using all that, I want you to find the angle A and angle B. The only hint I'll give you is that you need to start with A. Okay? Try it out, pause the video, see if you can find angle A and B, and then we will come back and see how you do. Okay. Well, without any work, I can do angle A. So let's call that theta. Let's call that theta. So if I'm going to do angle A, I need to use this whole big triangle, which is still at 90 degrees. Here's my opposite hypotenuse. So that is sine. So sine theta, in my case, is 14 over 50, which makes sense. So I go sine inverse of, that's what's going in. So I'm going to go second sine inverse of 1450. 16, I'm going to call it 0.3. So 16.3 degrees. Okay. So there's A. Angle A. Boom. Second one that I'm going to do. Now, you say, well, how the heck do I do this one? Well, do you see that this and this are the same thing? So if I can find that side, I can just divide it in half. Well, two sides of a right triangle, Pythagorean theorem, 50 squared minus 14 squared. And I got to square root that. I get 48. Okay, if you're not sure what's going on, this big triangle, right? Here's a side, here's the hypotenuse. I'm looking for that side. I can go 14 squared. I'm trying to find the other side, and I'm using 50 squared. Solve that, right? 50 squared minus 14 squared, and take the square root. I end up with 48. Now I got enough because I know I can make this 24. Okay, that's this side. Okay. And, well, now what? Well, now I got enough. So now I got to do it in terms of this angle, which means it's opposite adjacent. So that's tan. Tangent of theta, or B, 24 over 14. So remember, I'm taking tan inverse, 24 over 14. What do we get? Tangent, 24 over 14. Ooh, 59 point, we'll call it 7 degrees, and that's angle B. Okay. There you go. I mean, that's about as nasty as we can make it as far as just putting in random numbers and stuff like that. We just give you a challenge on that one. Double check. You should have got here. How'd you do? Last little piece. Here's our things here. So all the rest of the skills core extended. That's all that's left here. Now, whatever you didn't finish, you just have the rest. You should have already done some of these on the skills. You already did the side. Same thing with the core. You already did 3 of them. So not a ton left. Give them a shot. Let me know if you got questions. Otherwise, I will see you on the next video.